everyone doing? I know it's a little bit late in terms of getting the video out, but I did want to briefly go over um, some of the interview questions I used for students to survey them, um, figure out what works for them and what doesn't work for them. So this does come from my first book, The Research-Based Bilingual Instruction, The Impact of Multiple Modalities in a K-12 English Learner Classroom. I think these questions are very helpful. You don't have to use all of them, but you can, use maybe one or two a day as an opening activity, to survey them, to figure out what works for them and what doesn't work for them. So this comes from page 50. You can use it any way you like. You can reword the questions, but here are some of them. Describe your personal experiences with education prior to attending, your high school. How have your peers supported and helped you learn English inside and outside of school in the past? Multimedia use. How do visuals help you learn the English language? Some examples include pictures, diagrams, infographics, etc. How do movies and television help you learn the English language? Some examples include cartoons, television, movies, the news, etc. How do video games help you learn the English language? How does acting help you understand the English language? How does using sight help you learn and understand the English language? How does using your voice help you dramatize, learn, and understand the English language with your peers? So those are just some of them. I just wanted to go deeper into a couple of them. So just the first one was describe your personal experiences with education prior to attending your high school. If you ask them that, you can get a real good gauge of where they're at in terms of learning English. You can ask them that as an opener. That way, you can design your lesson around that. You can, modify your lesson. If you already have a lesson set and you ask them that as an opener, you can immediately adjust everything, based on their background and their experiences, which is really helpful. So for example, I have an English learner in one of my classes, and sometimes I can tell that they are struggling a little bit with the language, so I allow them to translate everything. I allow them to use the translation apps. But when it comes to the writing activities and the reading activities, I do tell them to really just try their best, and just tell me as much as they know, and that's acceptable to me. So that's real helpful. The second question is, how have your peers supported and helped you learn English inside and outside of school in the past? That peer question is critical. So if they tell you that their peers are very helpful, then that's a clue for you. That's a clue. That tells you, okay, this person is going to need to be paired up with a bilingual student, someone that knows English and Spanish, or English and their language, because they can help them. As long as it's not disruptive to the learning environment, that's key too. They can whisper, they can talk, they can collaborate, that's fine. Just as long as they're not too loud, that's just something you want to be mindful of. But it is helpful, and to ask them, that question. Will a peer or a friend help you? Multimedia use. How do visuals help you learn the English language? And that's also very important, right? Because if they're reading something and it's all words and they're not really getting a good visual idea of what they're reading, you want to allow them to go to the internet and look up these words and and show them how to look up the word and then click on images in Google, and that way they can see a visual of what it is that they're reading. And again, this may take time. It does take time for many multilingual learners to learn what it is that you're trying to teach them. How does acting help you learn the English language? So that's a very important, because they can act it out, or in their heads visually act out a word, try to figure out how this thing looks physically, how this word looks physically. The point is that I think when you survey students, at the beginning of a lesson, at the end of a lesson, at the middle of a lesson, at any point in a lesson, it doesn't have to be, it can be as a whole class thing, it can be as student to teacher kind of a thing. It can be, however you want to do it. But I think these survey questions, interview questions, help to sort of guide how you're going to begin or end a lesson, end a unit. I'm always asking students, what is working for you? What is not working for you? So it's very helpful. Like, for example, the online learning situation. If a student is struggling with a quiz that I know many, if my regular English learners or English students, the ones that are proficient in English, are struggling with this particular section of of a curriculum or of a course, then I'll bypass that. I'll just hide that quiz or hide that test. If everyone's struggling, then I know my multilingual learners are going to struggle with it. So those are just ways to sort of help them succeed and help them figure out, how they are going to succeed in your classroom. So writing music, you can ask them, does writing music help? Do video games help? Video games are very, they're popular. Kids use them all the time. They interact with each other in the video game and communicate with each other, and they're interested and engaged. So how does all that help them? And then you can guide them through that with the curriculum. And how does working in groups help? So, for example, tomorrow I'm gonna let my students work in pairs, work in groups, if that helps them. And it really genuinely does. Like, sometimes you think, some things are, they're just, the books are saying that this is gonna work, but how is it gonna look in your classroom, right? Maybe students are new to your classroom and they don't know anyone. So how do you get them to sort of collaborate with other people and feel comfortable doing that, feel good about it, and feel good about socializing with other people. So again, surveying students at the beginning of a lesson, at the middle of a lesson, at the end of a lesson, at any point of a lesson, at any point of your facilitation of a course, or in your class, curriculum in your class, is very helpful. And so, I just wanted to give you a little bit more information as to how to go about, supporting your students. And these surveys are real quick. If you're working with Google Classroom, it's real easy. Now in Google Classroom, you can actually create like a Google Doc right in there and just give them a quick survey. It could be anonymous. It could be, you can let them say their names if that works for them, if they're comfortable with that. So I thought that was a little bit of information I would like, I wanted to share with you. Also, in terms of rewards, I was thinking about this today, rewarding them. So I try to do a lot of intrinsic stuff. I try not to give them too many like extrinsic things. But I did find, like, if, because it's Halloween time, right? It's fall and you want to be fun. I avoid candy as a way of rewarding students, just because you don't know if they're allergic to things. You don't really know what they like, what they dislike. It's a lot. So what I did was I went on Amazon and I bought these Post-its, these Halloween Post-it kind of notepads, and I thought they were cute. But you always have to be also mindful if there are students that don't really believe in Halloween. You can, give them like fall post-it notes. So I ordered like fall post-it notes and pencils, ones that have like, leaves or, trees and, fall like colors. And then I bought these pencils and post-it notes and that are Halloweenish, and ones that are kind of representing of the season that we're in now. So it's fun. It's fun for them, and they're great ways for them to take notes. They can also put the sticky notes on the computer if they're working on the computer on a Chromebook. That way they can put a note on something that they don't want to forget as they're reading, as they're navigating a story. So sometimes, I've sometimes I'm like, you're still on this page, and it's been like 20 minutes, and I do that sometimes, and I have to remember that it does take time for them to sort of digest the information. So these are sort of some fun ways to sort of reward students, and to keep them motivated. I know, when I went to, when I was in high school, I didn't really use post-it notes. I just kind of did everything. I memorized everything. I just did it, but I did it in a way that I was able to sort of connect, right? I connected the word to something I was familiar with. And that's very helpful. That wasn't a strategy that was taught to me in high school. The high school that I went to was like, you're on your own. You got to figure this out. So I had to figure it out, and it worked. And now there's research to support it, that sort of connecting visuals to words and concepts and things that you're trying to teach are very helpful. And so those are all just some tips. And one of the questions that in the survey is, do you prefer to work independently or in groups, and why do you prefer one over the other? And I thought that was a great question. So that's an important question. When I was teaching at the community college English, and had, I would want students to be in groups, but some people didn't want to be in groups. And remember, these are kids that are possibly, still in high school. They're taking dual enrollment classes. And then other people just don't want to work with other people. I didn't force it. I let them work independently, and I sort of modified that lesson for them. I don't think it's a good idea to force working collaboratively or in pairs, because some people just work better alone. I do. I work better alone than I do with other people sometimes. But other times I do like working with other people, because there's a workload that you have to deal with, and it does help with the workload. And then obviously give them roles. This person can do this person can do the research, this person can do the writing, this person can do that. And if you are with a multilingual sort of situation, one person can do the translations of whatever it is that you're working on. It's really fun. Like, I really love teaching, and I really have a passion for it. I love solving students' problems. It's something that has always been a passion of mine, just solving their problems, solving their instructional problems, solving as many problems as I can to help them succeed, because it is something that I just enjoy doing. There are things I cannot solve, so I try to seek other sources. But anyhow, that's all. So happy fall. I guess this is the first day of fall, first day of autumn. I hope you guys have a great year. So that is it for now. I did want to say, my book is on its final stage of being sent to publication, but it's still a lot of work, because you got to do a lot of copy editing, a lot of, editing, copy editing, indexing, and just making sure everything is accurate. But it's very stressful, and it's time consuming, but we're almost at the end here with my fourth book. I'm really excited. So anyhow, I just wanted to say, have a wonderful day and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.